Hello everyone, this is Dr. N.K. Sharma. Today I will be discussing a very interesting topic. Actually we are starting this chapter number 5 of your class 12th NCERT textbook. The name of the chapter, as you see, I have written over here, it is Principles of Inheritance and Variation. So this is the chapter that we are actually starting, chapter number 5, Principles of Inheritance and Variation. Very interesting topic. So generally I can say that today we are starting a topic which is called as genetics. So this is what everybody understands. So you know that the name of the chapter is actually Principles of Inheritance and Variation, but what I am trying to say is that we are starting a very interesting topic in biology, genetics. Now what exactly genetics means? So what is genetics? What do we actually study in this particular part of biology? Look at the name of the chapter. So just I will advise you to just have a look at the name of the chapter. It says that it is principles of, there are two key words, one is inheritance and the other word is variation. So broadly speaking, I will say that genetics is the study of the two things. One which is called as inheritance. So we are studying what exactly is inheritance, and then we will understand what are the causes of variations. So these are the two important things that we will discuss in this particular chapter. So my definition of this particular term, that is genetics, actually comes from the heading of the chapter, that it is the principles of inheritance and variation. So two key important terms in the definition, one would be inheritance and second would be variation. Mind you, this is not the entire genetics. So we will be studying the next chapter, that is molecular basis of inheritance. So we are studying inheritance in general and gene in particular. So that means when I understand the molecules that are involved in the inheritance of characters, then I will study about them. That means I will be studying about DNA, I would be studying about RNA. There would be a concept of what actually is a gene, how these genes are getting inherited, how they are manifested into proteins, and these are the proteins that do all the functions of the body. So there will be a molecular basis of inheritance as well. Now you can understand chapter number 6 of your NCERT, which is molecular basis of inheritance. Again let me tell you, this is not limited only to understand the molecules of genetics. It has spread immensely, it has evolved immensely. Now it encompasses a very exciting sphere of branches, sub branches within genetics. So molecular biology would be one. Then we will see gene technology. Now that means we will be manipulating genes, we will be making some products with the help of microbes, say for example. So I will be synthesizing some human proteins with the help of bacteria. The gene technology, or what is called as the modern biotechnology, or what is called as genetic engineering. Then you will be studying about some very important techniques like DNA fingerprinting, the Human Genome Project. The entire sequence of nucleotides has been deciphered by a mega project, what is called as the Human Genome Project. So we are living in a very exciting time. So genetics is a very fast evolving branch of biology. But right now my concern is chapter number 5, and I am limiting myself to the study of what is called as inheritance or variation. You must have heard people talking about Mendelian genetics. So in the beginning of this chapter we will look about the classical genetics, or what is called as the Mendelian genetics as well. So again, coming to the definition, I have said that genetics basically is the study of inheritance and variation. So I will start with a very good photograph. So this is a photograph of two celebrities together. Both of them have been the President of the United States of America, and we are trying to understand what exactly inheritance means. So I will start with this photograph, and then let me come to you with the exact meaning of the word inheritance. So let us look at the two former presidents of United States of America. So you know that this is George Bush Senior and this is George W. Bush, the George Bush Jr., father and son. So they very much look alike. So they look alike very, very much. This is what is meant by inheritance. So most you can see that the similarities between the faces of the two former US president. This one is the father of this particular gentleman, and you can see that lot of features they share. You can easily tell that, okay, yes, there can be a father and son relationship between these two individuals. This is very, very apparent. And apparently what has happened, that George W. Bush Senior has actually passed a lot of his characters to his son, and therefore the son looks like him as well. This is the basic idea of inheritance. So in inheritance there is heredity. Now what heredity means? That means there is passage of characters from a generation to subsequent generation. So we say that human beings, they reproduce to produce human beings only. So it is very easy to identify a human being among all other living organisms. So we know that if humans reproduce, the progeny will be very, very similar to human beings themselves. So actually there is a very, very interesting photograph that I want to show you again, that will remind you of your childhood. And let us look at this particular photograph and try to understand heredity. So if you remember that in our kindergarten or KG classes, or even in very early educational classes, we were given this type of exercises, where on the one hand there are some animals given, and on the other hand are the younger ones of these animals. And if you remember your school days, very early school days, you will remember that you had to match. So that means if this is a chicken, you can understand the progeny would be chick. Look at the similarity between the two. So a chicken reproduces to produce the young ones, which are called as chick. Similarly, a goat will be producing what is called as a kid. Again, you can see the similarity between the two. This is a goose, and you can see the progeny is called as gosling, and you can see the similarity. And similarly, cat would be kitten, and horse obviously would be foal. So what exactly we are seeing, that living organisms, they actually reproduce to produce the progeny that are of their own kind. So this is the basic idea of heredity. So now we understand that heredity is that living organisms, they reproduce, they produce progeny, and progeny resembles the parent. So that means, again I am saying this, that the human beings will reproduce to produce human beings, and a chicken will reproduce to produce chicken like things, and obviously they are called as chicks, say for example. And therefore you can understand that like breeds like. This is what I am trying to say. This is the basic idea of heredity. We had seen the photograph of two former very, very important persons, the presidents of United States of America, and you could see an uncanny resemblance between the two. And this is the basic idea of heredity. So I hope you have understood that what exactly inheritance is. So inheritance would be transfer or transmission or passage of characters from one generation to subsequent generation. Now please understand, when I say subsequent generation, I am not limiting myself only from parent to their next immediate generation. We have heard many times people say that this kid's nose is very similar to the grandfather. So that may happen. So it is not limited only to one generation, because some of the traits may not appear in one generation, but may be appearing in the family in the subsequent generation. So the idea is the transmission of characters from a generation to subsequent generations, and this would be inheritance. So in the inheritance, the concept is heredity. So this is what we are going to study in this particular chapter. Now let us look at the other part of this heading. What I am saying is variation. So this is principles of inheritance. We have understood what exactly is inheritance. Now let us look at variation. So again I will show you some photographs rapidly. So just look at the photographs, and then we will talk later what exactly is variation all about, what is meant by variation. So if you look at this photograph, this is a photograph probably taken during a cricket match, and you can see the crowd is very happy. They are taking photographs, clapping, and probably Indian cricket team probably performing very, very well. The idea is you can see lot of people here, and if you watch them closely, if you observe the picture closely, the number of the people will be equal to the number of variations. Obviously they all are human beings, so overall they all are human beings, but are they exactly alike? Are they absolutely similar to each other? The answer is no. Have you seen your classroom? If it is a classroom of 50 people, you will find 50 variants of even skin color, even height. If you start measuring people with vernier calipers, there will be 50 people, so there would be 50 different heights. So everything, the shape of the nose, the shape of the earlobe, say for example, even the hearing pattern, everything you can see there is a huge variety. Let us look at another picture. So this is a picture that has been taken from a pilgrimage that is basically in Kerala, Sabrimala, and Lord Ayappa. There is a huge gathering. You can see again the point that I am saying. All of them are human beings. That was the idea of heredity. But are they similar to each other? Are they absolutely identical to each other? The answer is no. So that means as long as there is heredity, the transmission of characters, the progeny, though overall will resemble the parents, but there will be subtle variations as well. And this is a very, very important characteristic of inheritance. Look at another picture. So this is a very, very good picture, a very favorite picture of mine. It is in early 1900s at Times Square, and it is a New Year Eve celebration. And you can see that there are females as well as males in this picture, all very happy. So all in anticipation of a new year coming. And again, my idea is that all of them are human beings. They all have been the result of reproduction of human beings themselves, but they are not exactly identical. So this is the basic concept of variation. I hope you are getting the point. So what I am trying to say, that when we look at the living world, there is a huge amount of diversity. That is very fascinating about the living world. So there is immense amount of diversity among living organisms, and I am talking right now of organisms that are actually reproducing by sexual mode of reproduction. So please understand, there is a huge amount of variation. So you yourself resemble your parents a little bit, but are different from them as well. So we have seen that in sexually reproducing organism, at least, what you will see that okay, there would be heredity. The progeny would be, say for example, human being only, but there would be variations from the parents. They are not exactly alike. I have given you some examples. You have seen this thing around you as well. Watch at your class, watch at the people living in your neighborhood. They all are human beings, but are they identical? No. So this is the concept of variation. This is the fascinating aspect of inheritance. It is a flip side of the same coin. So while there is inheritance, there is variation as well. So these are the two terms that are vital to the initial part of genetics that I am going to study, what is called as the classical genetics or Mendelian genetics. I hope you got the point. So I hope this is absolutely clear. Now at this juncture, it is very important to understand that if you are studying genetics for the first time, it is always advisable to read the cell division chapter first. So at least study and understand the basics of cell division, especially meiosis. So because we will be talking a lot about sexually reproducing organism, and in sexual reproduction there are two terms that are very, very important. One is gametogenesis and the second is fertilization, and this gametogenesis will be occurring mostly because of a reductional type of division, what is called as meiosis division, and therefore a student of genetics must be absolutely comfortable about the idea of cell division. This is very, very important to understand. Please remember this, that this is absolutely vital. If you have not read cell division, do not start the study of genetics first look at cell division and then come to it. Now this is what basically is genetics, that the classical genetics that we are going to talk. Let us I have given you example of human beings. I have given you an example of, say for example, animals and their young ones. What about, is it applicable only to animals? Is genetic principle true only for animals or for every living organism? Say for example, what about plants? So we know, we can identify the plants by looking at them. We know that this would be a wheat plant, this would be a rice plant. This is absolutely clear to us because we have already seen rice plant. We know that even their progeny will be similar to them. Let us look at a picture again. Let us look at a picture this time from the plants itself. So let us look at some cereals and look at the grains. These are some very, very important cereals. The first three of them actually constitute the staple diet of humans. So this is rice, which is actually maximally consumed by the human beings. Obviously you know about wheat and you are very familiar about maize. This may be a problem, barley, but if you look at the three, these are the three crops that actually feed majority of the mankind. So if you look at the plant sources of the food, then majority of the food is actually derived from these three plants. So I'm talking of rice, wheat and maize, and it is very easy to identify them because we know of inheritance pattern and they will be applicable to plants as well. So is the idea of genetics new? No. So people from prehistoric times, actually they understood that there is something going on. And if you remember, the agriculture practices actually started some 10,000 years ago, and it began with domestication of the crop. Now what means domestication is growing the crop under your supervision. So rather than relying on the wild varieties, you start growing crop themselves, and the human beings actually became producers rather than hunter gatherers. So that was the beginning of agriculture. Even in agriculture, there was a concept of improvement of the crop. This is a very, very important chapter in your 12th biology, strategies for enhancement in food production. That is basically what is meant by improvement in crop. So even then the people were understanding the concepts of heredity, though they were not absolutely sure what is causing what, but they knew that if they allow particular organisms to breed, they can actually improve the crop. So the idea is not new. So that means it is not new, but the systematized study of the genetics was actually possible by with the work of a very, very great scientist. The scientist is called as Gregor Johann Mendel. So this person was an Austrian monk, and he was the first person who actually gave us the correct ideas that were actually backed up by data analysis that actually came to be known as the laws of genetics. And this is how this branch of biology, that is genetics, got firmly established. So let us look at the picture or photograph of the father of genetics. This person is Gregor Johann Mendel. As I told you that he was an Austrian monk, and basically the passion was teaching. He studied physics, chemistry. He was very, very good in mathematics. It is very interesting to note that initially he was denied the opportunity of teaching. Then he got himself equipped, developed his skills, and then worked under some very, very important scientists, developed a scientific temperament, and then started teaching. at a monastery, and he was very fortunate that the fellow monks were also having a very good scientific temperament. So this is the scientist that my NCERT says that next in the order, and this is the person actually who gave what we know initials about the genetics. This person's work actually gave us that there must be some laws behind the patterns of inheritance that we are seeing for large period of time. So this is the person. Now he worked on a plant. So that means let me write the name of the father of genetics. So we are looking at Mendel, and we are calling him father of genetics. I told you that this person was an Austrian monk, and we are talking of 19th century. And if you look at your NCERT, this is a very important thing to understand. The question has been asked in NCERT in NEET exam as well, that Gregor Johann Mendel conducted hybridization experiments on garden pea for 7 years, 1856 to 1863. So this is the duration that we are talking about. So the person was working. So in his garden, he actually cultivated a plant which is called as garden pea, and we know in biology this plant as Pisum sativum, and we say that the work of Gregor Johann Mendel on this plant were essential for the establishment of the basic laws of genetics. Again, let me remind you that Mendel was not the first person who actually worked on the concepts of genetics. He was not the first person actually to work on garden pea plant itself, but yes, he was the first person who could do a detailed analysis of data because of his good knowledge of statistics and maths, and he could see a pattern behind the results of the crosses or the hybridization experiments that he performed, and he could understand that there are some laws that are behind them. So let me show you a very good cartoon, and then let us look at the cartoon first. And this is a good cartoon. It says Mendel genetics research suffers a temporary setback, and the menu is pea soup. So every monk is consuming pea. So Gregor Johann Mendel was cultivating pea, was serving, say for example, this is obviously humor, pea to everybody, and therefore the supply of pea may have been reduced, and therefore the research of Mendel was actually suffered some setbacks. So this was humor. So what we have understood right now in this video is just nothing but basically what exactly is genetics, what will we be studying in this chapter. You read the initial part of the NCERT, then you will understand what I am trying to convey, and from the next video itself we will try to understand about this person Gregor Johann Mendel and his experiments in detail.